All right, so the first thing I want you guys to copy down is this right here. And I'll hand out the notes as you guys are doing that. And when you're done with that, there's a chart on the bottom of your notes, and I'll move it down in a second. That talks about shading, where to shade. So I'm gonna just go down here. You don't really need to copy this down, okay? But, yeah, copy the rest of this. Do you guys need me to go up still? Or did everybody get this part done? It is on your sheet too, but then copy this too. So I got up super early this morning because I couldn't sleep and I was gonna just come in and work because I had a lot to do. So I went to leave home at 5 to 6 and I can't find my school keys anywhere. I came in last night because I changed chairs. And so my husband and I came in and I unlocked the door. And since then, I don't know where my keys are. And so here I am ready at 5 to 6 this morning and I can't get in the building. So I can't get in my classroom. So then I had to wait till like 7 so I could get in my room. And I was hoping my keys were here and they're not. I know. I don't know where they did them. I give you enough time? Okay. So what we're gonna do today is we're gonna be graphing inequalities. So I'll give you graph paper for your assignment, but you're gonna graph lines and then shade above or below the lines. And one of the rules that you have when you graph an inequality is if your sign is either just less than or greater than, and you don't have that equal part to it, you have to remember to do a dash line, okay? If your sign is less than an equal, or greater than or equal, then you have a solid line. And then what I do when I graph, what's gonna happen is we're gonna get our lines into slope intercept form if they're not. So if you had like maybe y equals positive 2/3 x minus 4, you can graph something like this if you know the slope and the y-intercept. Okay, and here's how I do it is if my slope is positive, what I would do is I'd go to my graph. I would go to my y-intercept, which is where it crosses the y-axis, and I'd put a point at -4. Okay, and then what you do with the slope, if it's positive, you would go up and to the right. If your slope is negative, you go down and to the right. So the way I teach it, you always go to the right. If it's positive, you go up and to the right. If it's negative, you go down and to the right. Okay, so on this one, you'd go up 2/3, and then you can, I'm super picky about graphs. So like if you're doing a graph, I want you to have a straight line, a super accurate line that covers the whole graph. So I would want you to keep going up 2/3, and then up 2/3 is the same as down 2 left 3. And then once you get your line, you would graph it. And it would depend on this sign as to whether you draw a straight line or a dashed line. And then how you shade, there's 2 ways you can do it. Some teachers, let's say that this was just a greater than sign. Okay. If it's just greater than, this would have to be a dashed line, first of all. And then some teachers teach it as you pick a point that's not on this line and you check if it works in the inequality, which you can do that if you prefer that. A lot of times what I'd say to choose is the origin. So you could go to y is greater than 2/3 x minus 4. Okay, and if you chose the origin, you would just put 0 in, well, actually that's my x, but you would put 0 in for each of these. Okay, and so you check, is 0 greater than 2/3 times 0 minus 4? Well, 2/3 times 0 is 0. 0 minus 4 is -4. So you would think, is 0 greater than -4? And it is. So that means at 0, 0, it should be shaded. So your line would be shaded up here. Okay. Another way you can do it, and this is usually what I do, is I look at my sign, and if it's ever less than, you shade below the line. So what I mean by that, do you guys get that this would be above the line, this would be below the line? So if my sign is greater than, okay, that tells me I have to have a dotted line and I'd shade above. Okay, if it's greater than or equal to here, then you'd have a solid line and shade above. If it's less than, no equal sign, it would be dotted and you'd shade below it. So down here, and if it's less than or equal to, you would have a solid line and shade below. So we'll go over some examples and see how we do. So this one is nice because it's already in slope intercept form. So we can go ahead and say, what is our slope and what is our y-intercept? Okay, your slope is always what's in front of your x. And if your slope is just a whole number, you're going to put it over 1. Okay, then your y-intercept is this with the sign. So if this was -4, your y-intercept would be a -4, but it's positive, so my intercept is just 4. So then I would go to my graph and I would go to my y-intercept first, and I would plot 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now notice my slope is negative. If it's negative, you're gonna go down. And then the bottom number is always how you go to the right. If it's positive, you go up and to the right. Okay, so what we're gonna do from this point is we're gonna go down to right 1, down to right 1, and keep doing that. And I'll give you guys rulers with the graph paper, which is the same as up and to the left. And should this line be a solid line or a dashed line? Solid because of that equals, okay? So then you're gonna use a ruler to draw a straight line. So your lines are gonna be better than mine. And now when it's solved for y, you look at this sign and it's less than or equal to. And so if you look here, less than or equal to, you shade below. So would you guys all get that you shade right here? Is that okay? So then you can just do something like this. All right, so then you can just either shade it with your pencil or do something like that, just so I know where you're shading. Okay. All right, then if we go to this one, what will happen is they'll give you lines that are not solved for y, so that takes an extra step. So if we write down 4x plus 3y is greater than 12, what I want to do there is solve for this y. Okay, so what I want to do is take this term and move it to that side. Do you guys get right? Positive 4x, so how do you think I'd move that whole term over? Subtract 4x. Then this is gone. You have 3y is greater than, and I was showing you this a little bit in our last lesson. When you do these, you want to put that x in front of the constant just so it's in this form. So you're going to do negative 4x. And then what's understood in front of the 12 is a positive, so it would be plus 12. So when you do that, you use the sign that's in front of each of them, okay? Once you get to this point, we're solving for y, so we'd have to divide by 3. Now, when you divide, you would have to think about, do I have to switch the sign? And in this one, you're dividing by a positive number, so we don't have to switch the sign. So here, 3 over 3 is just going to give us y. This is negative 4x over 3. That's already reduced. If it was like negative 4 over 8, you would want to reduce that fraction. But because it's in front of x, you want it to be as a fraction. Don't put it as a mixed number or a decimal, because you're going to use that slope to graph it. And then here you'd go 12 divided by 3, which is 4. Okay. So once you get that done, you know that your slope is what's in front of the x, which is negative 4 over 3. And your b is the constant, which is 4. Okay. So what we're gonna do then is go on our Y axis. And it's at +4. So we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, and put a dot. Now, if our slope is -4/3, where do you go? Do you go up and to the right or down and to the right? Down and to the right. So I would go 1, 2, 3, 4 over right, 1, 2, 3. And keep going. 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1, 2, 3. Down 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1, 2, 3. And then and once you have that many points, you're probably good to just use your ruler. But you're gonna always use a ruler. I'll put them out when you have the graph paper, when we do the graph paper. So now that I have those, should I do a solid or a dashed line? A dashed or dotted, yes. So we're gonna have something like that, okay? Then what I'm gonna do is look at where I have to shade it. If it's greater than, notice down here with greater than, you shade above. Would you guys get that that would be up here? So then this would be where we're shading. Everybody understand that? So now, if we go here, we're gonna do one more like that where we have to solve for y. So here we have 2 minus y is greater than x. And so what we want to do there is we want to solve for y. We want to get this by itself. So I want to get rid of this 2. Right now that 2 is positive. So how do you think I bring it over? I add 2 or subtract 2? Subtract. Then this is gone. And then we have negative y is greater than x minus 2. Now, I can't leave that negative in front of my y. What I do when I have a negative there, a negative, I think of it as a -1. And when I'm trying to get rid of -1 times y, to get rid of that, I divide by a -1. And then you would divide by a -1 on all 3 of those. Okay? Then these are gone. You'd have your y, but on this one, do you think I'd have to change the sign? I would, because I divided by a negative. So that would be important that you would remember that. X divided by -1 is just going to be negative x. And then a -2 divided by a -1, what happens when you have 2 negatives and you divide them? What does it become? Positive. So it'd be +2. Okay. Once we get to that point, my slope, you know how there's nothing in front of here? Well, if it's just x, you would think of it as 1/1. But because it's negative x, we're going to think of it as -1/1. Okay. And then our y-intercept is at 2. So then I go over here and my y-intercept is at 2. And where do you think I go if it's -1/1? Yep, down 1 to the right 1. Then again, you'll have your ruler. And so try to make, several points. And then, so when I grade this on a test especially, I'm looking that you cover the entire line and that you don't just draw like a line without a ruler or that type of thing, and that your shading is right. Would this one be dashed or would it be solid? Dashed again. once you get to that point, we have to decide which way or where would I shade? And it's Y is less than. So if you look here for less than, it's going to be shaded below. So you guys all get that would be down here. So then we'd shade this. All right. So here is something that we may have learned in Algebra 1 that likely forgot by now. But if you ever are given a line, like let's say it's x equals 4, okay? When you have to graph a line that's x equals, what you would do is go on your x axis to where x is 4, okay? And you're going to do a vertical line. Now, depending on that sign in between, like let's say it was greater than or equal to, because it's equal to, then you would have the solid line. But x equals is a vertical line. Do you guys want to write that down actually? You could, I mean, I'm gonna leave it up to you what you write, but for sure I would do this. And then you might even want to kind of sketch one of each. You could do this, and then sketch those. And I'll give you a second to do that. So when you have x equals, it's always going to be a vertical line. When you have y equals, it's always going to be a horizontal line. Okay. So if we go down here, when you have an x like that, it's kind of a special equation. So, I mean, you can think of these, but when it's x equals, I'll kind of explain how I do it. And this is kind of a special case. So the first thing I'd want to do is get rid of that -3, and it's -3 times x. So to get rid of that, I'm going to divide by -3. Okay, then this is gone and I have x. What do you think I have to do with my sign? Flip it. So I get less than or equal to -3. Okay, so again, when you have x equals, you're going to have that vertical line. So we're going to go to our graph and we're going to go to where x is -3. And we're going to have a vertical line there. Would it be dashed or solid? It would be solid, right? So we're just going to have this vertical line. Okay. Now, when you have x equals, you guys could write this down if you wanted to. If it's ever x is greater than or equal to, you're going to shade to the right. So you could kind of add these on to here. And if ever x is less than or equal to, you would shade to the left. And it's common sense, like here they want all x's less than or equal to -3. Well, where your x's would be less than a -3 would be over here. But if you want to write that down, you certainly can. So if x is less than, you're going to be shading over here. And then if I go to this one, I have y equals 6 basically. And remember with y equals, you're going to have a horizontal line. So you're going to go on your y-axis this time. So go here until y equals 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And here you're going to have a solid or a dashed line. Dash. Okay. And if it's less than, we can follow these same rules because we have y's. And if y is less than, you shade below. Okay. So y is less than 6. And where all your y's are less than 6 are down here. All right, so your assignment is this. And I'm going to get you graph paper and rulers I'm going to put out. And you can come up and grab. I think you'll only need one piece of graph paper. So here's your graph paper, here's your ruler. Here, I can give you a digital. Yeah. Make sure you bring them from now on, okay, guys?
That's so weird.
I'm not sure.
Can we go back?
Yes, but sign out, okay? Yeah, go ahead. You're in stats?
Yeah.
Good.